This is the Grassy Knoll on this February 9th, 2005. We were supposed to have in the first hour John Turner, a former IRS officer who was with the organization known as Save the Patriot Fellowship. He tried to email me. God bless him, he did the right thing, but unfortunately I wasn't in the office to field him. When I called him and talked to him, it was quite obvious that he had no voice. So very graciously, the guest that we had for our second hour, Philip D. Collins, has stepped in. And although I'm a little bit unprepared, Philip, to introduce you is a very difficult thing. I would say to the audience, though, there are a number of articles by Philip out there, along with his brother Paul Collins, that deal with what we're facing today. And it's a very, very entangled web that we're talking about, but I believe the Collins brothers have done probably what I've seen is the best job thus far to try to tell people, look, this is where we're headed, and it's based on where we were. And Philip, you are the author, along with your brother, of the book, The Ascendancy of the Scientific Dictatorship, an examination of epistemic autocracy from the 19th to the 21st century. And Philip, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you for stepping in like this. I never thought we were going to get our first 2 hours this way.
Well, anytime. It's
all right.
No problem.
Thank you. And if you have to go scramble for material, I understand that, and we'll deal with that if we have to.
Sure.
All right. Thank you. I'm going to say that what drew my attention to you was the article that I found through Corbin's A Closer Look, entitled
the Semiotic Deception of 9/11.
Of September 11th, yes. Now, I think most of us do understand the concept of semiotic, but not in that term. Now, can you tell us, for instance, I'm assuming that it's close to symbology, but will you tell us what semiotic is all about?
Absolutely. Actually, symbology is a subsidiary of semiotics. Semiotics is basically the study of signs. That's a somewhat overly simplified definition. The field also concerns itself with the application of signs in human discourse. Moreover, signs aren't just images. Spoken and written words also constitute signs. So the field really encompasses all human communication. Its significance in conspiracy research is its potential for deciphering the esoteric symbology of the secret societies that comprise the ruling class religion. Many of these symbols are actually presented before the public eye, yet the commoner is only familiar with the exoteric or denotative meaning of the symbol. Meanwhile, the esoteric or connotative meaning of the symbol is tangibly enacted right before our very eyes every day. For instance, very few Americans are even remotely familiar with the connotative meaning of the Great Seal that adorns our currency. But the semiotician can probably discern more just by examining the sign itself. That's not to suggest that every semiotician will recognize the Great Seal's conspiratorial nature, but they will be able to develop some fragmentary understanding. For instance, the semiotician would see the truncated pyramid and draw the inference of an unfinished ongoing project. The all-seeing eye would give the semiotician the inference of divine providence, although not necessarily a divine providence that is consistent with biblical Christianity. The Latin phrase annuit coceptus would reinforce this inference, meaning he blesses this undertaking in the original Latin. And the other Latin phrase, e pluribus unum, which means out of many one, would suggest some sort of monistic preoccupation with oneness. But already the semiotician has discerned a lot more than your average Joe. And all this was derived from the simple study of that sign, which adorns the back of our currency, and is why semiotics is so important and so integral to conspiracy research.
Let me pin you down also while we are on the back of the dollar bill, because that is an exceptionally interesting piece of paper. There is also the words, is it not Novo Ordo Seclorum?
Absolutely. Novus Ordo Seclorum, which is Latin for New Order of the Ages, or New Secular Order. And basically, the seclorum part suggests a secular order, which will Of course, secularization has been commonly associated with atheism, although men like sociologists like William Sims Bainbridge have made clear that secularization actually doesn't represent the obliteration of religion, but instead the clearing of the spiritual marketplace for a brand new theocratic order. So really you have there already the inference, the connotative meaning being that the spiritual vacuum that will be left after the demise of Christianity, which is one of the goals of the elite, will be a new theocratic order with a brand new God and a brand new state-sanctioned religion.
A couple of things. Before, when you were talking about the commoner or the common person not understanding, it's not because they don't have the sagacity, it's because they really are veiled, are they not, from these semiotics?
Yes. The commoner, again, is only familiar with the denotative meaning. The denotation of a sign is basically the sign's literal meaning. You see an eagle, that's pretty much what you see, an eagle, a bird. But the connotative meaning for, say, the eagle has been a symbol of Americanism. It's symbolic of Americanism, symbolic of courageousness, and all those qualities that are embodied within Americanism. We see those also portrayed in the eagle in its connotative meaning. Likewise, you see, regular citizen sees the obelisk in Washington, D.C., denotatively, they see just that, an obelisk, a long protrusion from the ground. But connotatively, it's really a symbol of phallic worship that dates back to Nimrod and the Babylonian mystery religions.
Also, to revisit the back of the dollar, what is your understanding, not that it's a real big point, but what is your understanding about when that verbiage and design was delivered to the United States? Now, I know that FDR commissioned it to be put on the back of the dollar, but did it not reach the United States long before that? What's your take on that?
Well, as I understand it, it was presented to the founding fathers, and I don't remember exactly who it was that presented it to some of the founding fathers, but it's a symbol that dates back quite a ways. It dates back all the way to Egypt, to ancient Mesopotamia. What's interesting about the symbol, the Great Seal, is the fact that, as you said, it was introduced to our currency by FDR. Really, it's a symbol of scientism, which scientism is basically the epistemological belief that all knowledge is derived through science, and absolute primacy is bestowed upon science. And while that seems kind of desirable, being that we have so much faith in science nowadays, the problem is that science or scientism is basically it's a unit of it's a system of measurement, and as a system of measurement, it has to preclude those things that outstrip its finite units of measurement, and those things include human dignity, liberty, individuality, the spirit, the soul, and so these things will be precluded according to a scientistic society, and that's exactly what the Great Seal, the truncated pyramid, all that represents, is a new scientistic theocratic order.
A number of things now as we see more listeners coming on the stream. This is the Grassy Knoll. This is Visigoth. I am with Philip Darrell Collins. In the first hour, we were to have had on John Turner from Save the Patriot Foundation. He came up hoarse, which is really a blow, because last night I spoke to him at between 7 and 8 p.m. his time out in California, and he was in full voice, but when I went to call him just a couple of minutes ago, he sounded like somebody who was about 115. However, in the second hour, we were to have had on Philip Darrell Collins, and he's been gracious enough to join us in this first hour, and it is with he that we are talking. And I as I had said earlier in the program, was drawn to him because of an article that appeared, just in one of these email lists, which was entitled The Semiotic Deception of September 11th. And Philip, if we can go back to talk about some of the imagery and a final little note to this Novo Ordo Seclorum.
Mm-hmm.
That is from Virgil, the poet, is it not?
Yes, I believe so. I have heard other scholars suggest other authors, but so far that seems to be the most likely of authors.
Well, what's doubly interesting is that in George Bush's inaugural address last month, he cited that exactly as it is, and he called it a new order of the ages.
Absolutely.
What I found interesting, though, was a while ago, Bill Moyers, whom we all know from PBS, held a town hall meeting, and he conjured a Virgil statement, but completely left out the word order. He said it was a new age of the beginning, or a new beginning of the ages. And I was like, well, what about that Latin word ordo there, Bill? I think there was something inherent in his not wanting to refer to that particular word because of the obvious connotation or denotation, and that is New World Order.
Yeah, and also I think it was almost intention that he would use the designation of age, because being that New Age is the New Age. Yeah. It's the capstone of the religious movement that underpins the drive for global government.
Excellent point, because he swapped out one thing for another, and we had Chris Pinto on, a documentary filmmaker of the series Megiddo, who dealt in the second installment with the New Age religions and the twists on such that are entering Christianity. And you're right, I never thought about that until now, but you lose the orders, but you gain the New Ages, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And the age that they are, believe that they are basically initiating, that they're bringing in, is the age of Aquarius, which was supposed to be the new antithetical age, a age that's antithetical to the age of Pisces, which is commonly associated with Christianity. And now the new deity is an emergent deity that is of an apotheosized or deified man, so-called with it, and has been written with a capital M, so as to denote his purported intrinsic divinity
and godhood.
Absolutely.
I asked this of Chris Pinto, and I'm only asking you because I am curious for myself. I don't know how many of the listeners have heard of this tape series, which dates back now over 20 years. I can't believe it. Are you familiar with Constant Cumby's series, The Hidden Dangers of the Rainbow?
Yes, as a matter of fact, yes. It's a excellent book, too. Excellent book.
When did you encounter that? Did you encounter that 20 years ago as I had, or recently, or?
More recently, my brother, who's also the co-author of the book, had also introduced me to it. I noticed that in it, Constant Cumby brings to light the New Age movement's chronic references to Aryans, to emergent new deity in mankind, and that this was analogous to the Aryans, which of course are now of Nazi infamy. But you find that doctrine very much present also in Nazi Germany. This idea of humanity becoming God, that they ascribe the term Aryan to it, almost really doesn't have much to do with blonde-haired, blue-eyed people, so much as it has to do with a new breed of man who's coming into being through the processes of evolution, which, by the way, is a doctrine of transformism that basically dates back to Mesopotamia and was just really popularized by Charles Darwin in the beginning of the latter half of the 19th century and the beginning of the 20th century.
One question about this Aryan race, as you mentioned. This is something we're thinking about the Germanic Uberman, but that really, it goes back so far, and were these people, do you know, necessarily Anglos? Were they Hindus or?
Actually, the Aryans, or the concept of Aryanism, as I understand it, is really not really humanity at all. It's actually a post-human condition. It's a kind of quasi-Gnostic concept where humanity will evolve beyond the point to where it's no longer recognizable as a human being. And you've seen this belief system time and time again. You mentioned the Übermensch, which basically was the term that was coined by Nietzsche.
Nietzsche, right?
Yeah, Nietzsche also said that humanity was something to be overcome. So it's really a point at which humanity has overcome its own humanity and ceases to be human. And this we've seen this before, of course, with Hitler's Aryan. We've seen it with Nietzsche. We've seen it in communist Russia with the so-called Soviet man. And despite cultural variations and modifications, the myth remains the same. And basically, it's also a Freemasonic myth. If you read the book W. Elms Wilmshurst, The Meaning of Masonry, basically on page, I think, 47, he basically says that the real purpose of modern Masonry, which was also the purpose of the ancient mysteries, was to expedite this evolution of man towards this post-human state, towards this state where he's no longer man, but he is, in fact, God.
Chris Pinto dealt with that a lot because that seems to be, of course, as we know, especially as it pertains to Scripture, that the sin that cast Satan out of heaven was to be as God.
Yes.
And so when that finds itself traveling down the food chain to a Homo sapiens, it's no different. And I think we might be witnessing that right now with science, as you said, even with the cloning of life and the creation of life, and perhaps some areas that we might not want to venture down, but we are certainly doing that today.
Certainly.
Now, we had spoken about doing a series, and we will do that. It will not necessarily be live every Wednesday, but we are going to do it in an episodic arrangement. And in talking to Philip thought that a good title would be The Magicians of Mutability. This would be an overarching title for the series. And when you came up with that, Philip, what were you addressing necessarily with that title?
Okay. Well, basically, mutability. Mutability is basically the potential for a species to mutate or to change. You have that sort of jargon also used by the ancient alchemist. The mutability of silver or
metals.
Lead into gold, base metal, which was actually a cover for their actual purpose, which was the mutability of humanity into superhumanity. But basically, the elite believe that this mutability can be facilitated today now through science. And it's interesting because if you take the word technology and you take away its original root, which is techne, it means craft. And craft is, of course, associated with witchcraft. And witchcraft, of course, is associated with the term Wicca, which means to bend, as in the bending of reality, and also as in the bending of human nature. But it's interesting because many modern contemporary scientists and theoreticians now pretty much openly admit that this is really just a new incarnation of magic. For instance, I believe his name's Mark Pesky. Yeah, Mark Pesky, who's the co-inventor of virtual reality modeling language. He wrote, and I quote now, "The enduring archetype of techne within the pre-modern era is magic of an environment that conforms entirely to the will of being," unquote. So really, what we have is the new breed of magicians, or the scientists, or the scientific elite, and they intend on transforming man through the sorcery of technology.
Yeah, and they certainly are not doing this in and of themselves, but they are most definitely being financed and backed and funded by the powers that be. We call them global elitists. In the United States, Philip, I don't know how you feel about it, but we look at it as the foundations in particular, like Rockefeller and Ford and Carnegie.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And this is going on globally, it's just not here. We understand that. So, somebody said something about, it's funny, but if you were to ask people about their trustworthiness of science, they would probably give it a pretty high grade. I mean, yeah, they just look at it as like, well, they know more than we do.
Sure.
But I had read an article once that warned, and we're going to go to the scientific dictatorship, which is one of the cornerstones of our getting together, one of the articles you wrote. But, I mean, scientists lie too.
Yeah, they sure do. And again, the problem is that science being what it is, it's finite in nature, and it does not take into account the infinite. As a measuring stick, it must exclude certain things that no longer fit the stick, and that includes the soul, that includes the spirit, that includes human dignity and liberty, and these things are precluded when you take a scientific approach towards the configuration of society. A society that is completely and totally configured along the contours of science is one that is completely stripped of liberty. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure you probably read the report from Iron Mountain. Mm-hmm. In that report, I think that the authors put it quite succinctly. They basically say that with a scientifically regimented society, that axiomatic values, as they put it, become non-existent. And those axiomatic values include all those things that you and I value, which are liberty and our dignity and our freedom. So, yeah, absolutely.
I want to let everybody know, again, as we are early into the program, perhaps many people looking for John Turner from Save a Patriot Foundation, but he was taken suddenly under the weather, and with us is the guest for the second hour, who has graciously agreed to come on for the first hour, and that is Philip D. Collins. Now, what I want to do is, if people are listening on the internet, and by the way, TK out there in northern Illinois, sorry that we didn't have John on, but I know you're interested in this just as well. Where are the bulk of your articles available?
The bulk.
I mean, is Biped one of those sites?
Yeah, the bulk is the main groundwork for all my work can be found on Biped, which is basically all one word, BIPED.info, www.biped.info. The website is largely a website for the intelligent design movement, which all the positions of the theoreticians that comprise that movement don't necessarily endorse my views, nor I endorse theirs. But the main purpose of the website is to present an alternative to Darwinian evolution. My articles largely concern themselves with exposing the occult with the entry of the human race into the 21st century.
Also, we want to tell people, and do you have a website, by the way?
No, I sure don't. Only the websites for the book.
Okay. All right, and let me give that now. The book that you and your brother co-authored is entitled The Ascendancy of the Scientific Dictatorship, an Examination of Epistemic Autocracy from the 19th to the 21st Century. That's available at the website www.iuniverse.com/bookstore. And also, really, if they go onto the web, as I've done with you, and they would do a search on you and your brother, they would come up with these outlets, would they not?
Yes, absolutely. That and also Amazon.com, BarnesandNobles.com. There's a multiplicity of outlets for the book.
All right. Now, addresses 9/11, which is a very touchy subject, obviously, for a lot of people, but one in which we also have dealt with from the years since it happened.
Certainly.
What struck you about exactly what the title says, and that is, what about the semiotic deception of September 11th? Can we go into that?
Sure, absolutely. Well, the semiotic deception basically began several years before 9/11 and was part of a larger project that researcher Michael Hoffman calls sci-fi predictive programming. Essentially, through literature and films, science fiction acts as a transmission belt for globalist and occult thought. Science fiction has been called the literature of ideas, and this is a very appropriate designation because the pre-September 11th world represented what I characterize as an ideational contagion, or a contagion of ideas, that was promulgated in no small part by science fiction. For instance, there was Independence Day, which was replete with globalist rhetoric. Plot inconsistencies basically betrayed the film's own globalist agenda. The title denotes a struggle for freedom against some entrenched oppressor. However, the aliens in the film, if you pay attention, close attention to the film, were not intent upon subjugation. They were bent on genocide. Thus, the connotative meaning of the film's title suggests reconceptualizing of America and America's tradition of Independence Day, our traditional notions of what it means to be independent and free, and thus making us conform more to a globalist framework of world government. And that's exactly what happens in the film Independence Day. Nearing the end, basically, you witness the amalgamation of all nation-states, including America, into a global superstate. But Independence Day's role in the semiotic deception of the masses reached its nadir with 9/11, as is evidenced by an intertextual reference made by MSNBC journalist Ron Insania on the day of the WTC attacks. In an interview with Matt Lauer and Tom Brokaw and Katie Couric, Insania likened the WTC attacks to Independence Day. And Professor Elliot Gaines, who's a semiotician and broadcast journalist critic, also one of my mentors in semiotics, observed that this allusion to a commonly known cultural text, being Independence Day, which is basically known now thanks to mass media all over the world, irrespective of your cultural background, that reference would alter the paradigmatic character of 9/11. According to Gaines, Independence Day's narrative binary opposition of good versus evil was imposed on the events of 9/11. So suddenly the good humans that you saw in Independence Day, right, became America. And all of a sudden the evil aliens became the Arabs. And this deception was further augmented by NBC's conscious use, and I say conscious because they were quite aware of the fact that they were using archived footage of Palestinian demonstrators accompanied by a title card reading earlier this morning. Now, Couric read along with this an unverified wire from the West Bank stating that the demonstration was a celebration of the WTC attacks. But NBC would later confess openly that its use of the archive footage with an unverified wire constituted a breach of ethics. But it was too late. The damage was already done. Already in the eyes of America, the Arab world was the source of all our woes, and the paradigmatic template of Independence Day, which good humans against evil aliens, was imposed on 9/11. Meanwhile, the supranational elite who were responsible for the creation of bin Laden and the activation of America's national security apparatus remained hidden behind a semiotic mirage. But that's basically how, the role that Independence Day, which was just one of the many sci-fi predictive programming films, played in September 11th. It may as well. You may as well have had a movie poster with September 11th written across it in the same picture of the the now famous picture of the alien craft blasting the White House to bits, posted on every billboard in America. That was basically the paradigmatic character that the elite imposed upon the event.
Well, 2 points. One, and this is specific. I was caught back in my native New Jersey. I'd gone back to visit, and when 9/11 occurred, I was there. And reports we were getting, and I lived in Northeast New Jersey, and for those who need like fixed points, that would be like Hackensack and Teaneck and Fort Lee. And along I-80, there's a town of considerable size called Patterson, and we were getting, I guess, reports verbally, and I believe there was some on local media that were saying and showing films of supposed Arabs rejoicing in what took place, and that there had been some blowback from another ethnic community, the blacks of Patterson, against the Muslims for celebrating. This never, ever, in the end, was proven true. So not only, as you cite, Philip, did it take place on NBC New York, Channel 4, but it was happening also across the river in other neighborhoods. Now, whether this was concerted, we don't know, but certainly it did help resonate the fact that the Arabs are the bad guys, the Muslims are the bad guys, and we're the good guys.
Absolutely.
Now, again, regarding 9/11 and the movie Independence Day, and I sent you something that was a rough draft of an article soon to be published about the symbology that has been laid in movies, if you will, almost as far back as 10 years ago. Do you think this 9/11 situation, as laid out by Osana, and also the hearkening back to Independence Day, do you believe this was all orchestrated, this was deliberate?
Yes, I do. I believe that semiotic intimations were already thoroughly embedded in mass media and in our basically our subconscious years in advance, perhaps even decades. Not to say that the elite were able to perfectly orchestrate 9/11. Right on some sort of a time clock or some sort of a schedule, but the groundwork, the psychocognitive groundwork was laid well in advance. For instance, you take the cultural milieu that basically surrounded the September 11th world. Witnessed a film in 1997 called Starship Troopers, which was, of course, based on the Robert Heinlein novel. But in the analysis of the movie, film critic Jeffrey Whitehall states that the narrative paradigm is premised upon the assertion that, and now I'm quoting him, quote, the sovereign state relies on the creation of an external threat to author its foreign policy, unquote. Now, the very same year of Starship Troopers' release, former National Security Advisor Zbigniew Brzezinski published The Grand Chessboard. And The Grand Chessboard is an extremely important book because the Grand Chessboard basically lays out the geostrategy that the neoconservative faction of the elite are now tangibly enacting in the Middle East, the East, in Iraq and Afghanistan and what have you. But at any rate, in Zbigniew Brzezinski's book, The Grand Chessboard, he says, and I'm quoting, America may find it more difficult to fashion a consensus on foreign policy issues except in the circumstance of a truly massive and widely perceived direct external threat, unquote. Again, the semiotic intimations were embedded within pop culture, within pop entertainment, to prepare America and Americans for an external threat, and that the notion is that our foreign policy relies on the existence of external threats, which is kind of a Hegelian notion, because the notion is that we are, in order for any sovereign state to exist, we're going to require conflict.
Mm-hmm.
So this goes back, way back. I mean, it even goes as far back as the film 2001: A Space Odyssey. In 2001: The Space Odyssey, the basic one of the semiotic markers in that is the monolith, and the monolith acts as a signal that human evolution is moving on to its next glorious step, and that something big is about to happen. Well, lo and behold, New Year's in 2001, basically in Magnuson Park, a monolith appeared. Nobody knew where it came from. It was very well sculpted, very well made, and the city and people were debating its fate, but then it disappeared. So evidently the idea was that conveyed was that humanity is on to its next step, onto evolution, and that very same year, Osama bin Laden and the rest of the alleged perpetrators of 9/11 basically destroyed the WTC. So again, yes, the semiotic signposts are all there.
Now, I had sent to you, did you get a chance to look at that at all, that rough draft of an article yet to be published?
No, not yet, no.
Okay, no problem, but this gentleman is looking into what he would term the symbology of 9/11 in films going back more than 10 years ago. And he's also offered them, as he's gone along, with the caveat that, well, this might be a coincidence, I understand that, but I would rather show it than not. And again, like he said, there's reasons why. If, for instance, and I'm really roughly remembering this, in a certain movie, a person is standing between a bank of elevators, and it's a long shot, I guess, and he's standing between 9 and 11. Now, you could be standing between 11 and 13, or
sure.
7 and 9. I mean, now, yeah, sure, it could be a coincidence, but
sure.
We have to look back at this and wonder if we are being prepared by mass communications, to include TV and movies, for some kind of, what would you think would be the game, Philip? I mean, why would they be doing this to us unless it's some kind of like little dirty Illuminati trick and the joke is on us?
I personally feel that it's psychocognitive warfare, that it's used, first off, to breed what's known as cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance is basically a state of psychological paralysis when people don't know what to do and which way to go. It's kind of like if you were to place a dog in a room. You get the dog to salivate at the sound of a bell and everything, because you keep bringing it food every time you sound the bell. And then you turn off the lights and beat the dog, and so every time you turn off the lights, that acts as the dog's cue to, basically cower in a corner and everything. Then all of a sudden you do both at the same time, ring a bell and turn out the lights. And what the dog does is it freezes up. Likewise, the American public basically was paralyzed because the cognitive dissonance that was bred through the symbology that was conveyed through mass media for years and years and years, and anything, it had instilled in them, this sense of uncertainty. And so what happened and everything? Well, the powers that be took it from there. And there was very little in the way of dissenting voices. I also think that it's used to also basically comfortably acclimate us to the future societal models that they would have us accept. For instance, and me and Michael Corbin discussed this on a closer look, but we were discussing the University of Denver mural, which was
the murals?
Yeah, it's a mural titled "The Digital Transformation."
Okay.
And basically, this mural shows a DNA double helix issuing forth from a goddess's hands, and as the mural continues to ascend into the stars, it transforms into a series of ones and zeros. Well, what this semiotically gesticulates towards is the hypothetical concept of cyber survival, which is a theory of technological resurrection and immortality. Now, you'll notice how the theory plagiarizes the Judaic, Christian, and Islamic concepts of death and rebirth. But now, however, the context is overtly scientific. So, sci-fi predictive programmer Arthur C. Clarke prophesied this digital transformation in the novel The City and the Stars. And in the extremely influential book, which was more recently published, The Age of Spiritual Machines by Ray Kurzweil, that author asserts that this digital transformation could be achieved through magnetic resonance imaging or some sort of technique of reading and simulating the human brain's neural structure within a computer. But thus, man becomes a god, the spirit of which inhabits cyberspace and finds incarnation in a corporeal body that's maintained through nanotechnology and what have you. But Ray Kurzweil was not, some sort of a marginalized kooky cult leader. He's been involved in the founding and development of 9 businesses, one of which deals with virtual reality. But you can see where in that mural, people are being acclimated to a future societal model that the elite wish to bring about.
Do you think that, and we're talking about the Denver Airport murals, am I correct?
Actually, it's this was the University of Denver mural. Although the DIA, the Denver International Airport, also has quite a few interesting murals and pictures that semiotically also gesticulate towards similar themes.
And really, isn't it interesting that at that airport, and again, a friend of mine flies for an airline that goes into Denver, and I asked him to check that out, and this is a gentleman who wants no part of conspiracies, and he indicated, yep, they're there, and they are a little curious.
Yeah.
He also saw that the official name of the airport was New World Airport.
Yeah.
And there is a Masonic capstone.
Absolutely.
And the one thing he asked me after all this was, what I can't understand, and he asked it kind of rhetorically, not that he asked, he needs to talk to me about aviation, but he said to me, he goes, what I don't understand is that airport is so ill-used. Why are they building so many new runways? And I said to him, not for what's happening now, for what's yet to come. And I won't lead you down that way, but you can respond to it if you wish, Philip. And
sure.
Our take is, Harry and myself on the grassy knoll is that in time to come, Washington will be obliterated, and the capital of perhaps the American Union, the 34-nation Western Hemisphere, will be in Denver. Any take on that at all?
Well, at this point, my take would probably be speculative as well. But I also think there's a possibility that DIA could serve as a potential, and I don't want to sound alarmist, but a potential internment camp facility. I mean, that sounds a bit, doomsday-esque, but
not on this program.
Yeah. But there was a book that was recently released. I can't remember the author's name, but basically it was apologetics in favor for the internment of Japanese citizens in Manzanar during World War II, which we know now was an atrocity. But yet the author writes this polemic in favor of it, and that then there's discussions of possible internment camps for potential terrorists nowadays under Ashcroft. So that's also another potential application of the DIA. I mean, like you said, there's a lot of it's really ill used. There's a lot of facilities and a lot of stuff there that has yet to even be really employed in any sort of real function yet.
It's interesting, too, because one of the things I did was I went back to, I think it was a 1968 issue of, you remember Look magazine, or do you remember your folks having it on the coffee table?
Yeah, it's I remember it was it was quite a popular magazine
Sure.
in its time.
And I was amazed to find, and of course I was 17 at the time, and for whatever reason I wasn't paying attention, but I believe it was the managing editor of Look wanted to address this bit. I guess it was about rumored detention camps. And you have to remember at that time you have a very split country about Vietnam. You do have some very hot spots in America with regard to racial problems. And so the idea that they were out there was not necessarily a far-fetch. And this gentleman, working for a mainstream publication like Look, said they're out there.
Yeah. Well, the Village Voice not too long ago released an article over potential prison camps. And the Village Voice is by no means, a conspiracy theory journal or some sort. It is a bit left wing, but it nonetheless their authors have acknowledged that that possibility. And I used to be kind of skeptical, and again, you can't believe everybody that throws a set of schematics in front of your face and tells you that that's exactly what you're looking at is a concentration camp. But at the same time, I don't see how it could not happen again, because frankly speaking, all the same historical precedents that preceded the establishment of the Nazi concentration camps. We've seen them mirrored here in the events of the post 9/11 world. So, my general response to the critic on that is, okay, hey, I hope you're right, but tell me if it is true, what the heck is to stop them? What the heck is to keep it from happening again?
Yeah, and even if it's not for detention of dissidents, whatever that would mean, but also when we're looking at this national vaccination program and those who may choose not to want to be vaccinated, you've got a number of causes whose end might be in quarantining people, if that's a better word, for detaining them.
Yes.
And also, I don't know if you've seen this at all, Philip, but we've come upon on the Military Zone website a handbook for officers as to how to deal with certain grades of prisoners, to include civil internees, which basically are American citizens inside the U.S.
That's right, and many of the FEMA classes, they already have had instructors who basically vilify our founding fathers, and then of course vilify patriotic Americans. And it's interesting because that word patriotism has been also basically semiotically tweaked in the post-September 11th world. You notice that in the pre-September 11th world, the patriot, the appellation of patriot, connotatively was derisive. It meant terrorist. It meant you're just a bigoted militia member. And now with in the post September 11th world, thanks to the Patriot Act, that word has again been semiotically tweaked, but now it's been kind of reinducted into the cultural lexicon of preferential phrases. Now it takes on a brand new meaning, and patriotism becomes synonymous with fighting terrorism, and fighting terrorism becomes synonymous with informing on your neighbor, submitting to wiretaps, submitting to surveillance.
Searches?
And so I mean, again, the semiotic seeds were there for that little cultural transformation that we now see underway.
We are with Philip Collins, who is the author, as well as with his brother, on the book, and I'm looking for it now because that is one mouthful. It is The Ascendancy of the Scientific Dictatorship, an examination of epistemic autocracy from the 19th to the 21st century. And that's available. It's online. You can order it through www.iuniverse.com/bookstore. Also, would you please, once again, Philip, for our new listeners in this waning half hour, tell them where they can go to find some of the articles that you and your brother have written?
Sure. You can find all my articles, which lay the groundwork for the book, can be found at www.biped.info, and just click the article link. You can also find some of my articles at the Conspiracy Archive. That's all one word, www.conspiracyarchive.com. You can also find some of Paul's articles at paranoiamagazine.com. They have, just click the articles link and you should find it. It's titled I'm trying to remember the name of it. It's The Psychology of Abu Ghraib, Elite Thought and Iraqi Prisoner Abuse by Paul David Collins. And you can also find at www.nexusmagazine.com. On the articles link, you can also find The Hidden Face of Terrorism, which is basically an excerpted article from my brother's first book.
Okay, and he does have a book out there extant that is titled The Hidden Face of Terrorism. Is that correct?
Yeah, the whole title is The Hidden Face of Terrorism, The Dark Side of Social Engineering from Antiquity to September 11th.
And we hope, obviously, to have him join us in this series. And this series that has been titled, that we're going to revisit the Collins brothers, and that is The Magicians of Mutability. And we're going to go on to some more specific items, but I want to revisit something that you did say, if I could.
Sure.
And I want to know your opinion about when you see Brzezinski writing the Grand Chessboard back in, 1995, 1996?
Yeah, somewhere in that, yeah.
Right, and he talks about, did you pick up on this at all? That the United States should be careful not to agitate an axis of Iran, China, and Russia. Yeah.
It's interesting because the whole time he kind of dances around that whole I guess you could call it alliance. Evidently Brzezinski saw the ties between those nations, the ties between those nations tightening, and it's interesting because it's almost as though he knows that that's going to become part of the new dialectic and everything. That's going to be the new dialectic that will comprise a new Cold War.
But now let me ask you this in the framework of the article you did on the semiotics of 9/11.
Sure.
And with some of this hidden imagery in movies and such in preparation, don't you think? Well, that's a loaded question. Let me ask you this.
Uh-huh.
Do you think Brzezinski is so very prescient, or do you believe that he knows what the plan is given the crowd he hangs with, and again, he's laying this in early for a time yet to come?
I think I really doubt that Brzezinski is ignorant of really what he's saying. I think that he has a good idea. Really, when I read the Grand Chessboard, what I took from it was he was basically delineating the geostrategy that would ensure the Western elites, the Western elites that are here in the United States, global primacy in whatever form of global government that we would see eventually come to pass and everything. And so I think that he knows that that we run the risk now of basically inciting some hostilities between us and the Chinese and the Russians and what have you, because we've basically stepped into geostrategically sensitive sensitive locations. So yeah, he's probably well aware of what he's proposing and what's on the horizon.
Do you think in any terms, though, that this is a warning to us subliminally? I know it's a tough one, but
sure.
Just tell me what you think, because I find it. When I read that, I'm saying I'm paying attention to this. If he stated it more than once, and I'm telling you, if he stated it, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
But tell me how you feel about that.
I think it's kind of like a heads up to be anticipating eventual conflict with the East. I think that him being former national security advisor, and his basically one of his fortes being geostrategy. Yeah, he kind of knows that is what's on the horizon. You can also probably bet that in the future, what you're going to see in terms of films. I wouldn't be surprised if you saw films that now took a more hostile approach towards the East in general, specifically China and Russia. Again, you're going to see a resurgence of films that are akin to the old Manchurian Candidate, Red Dawn, and what have you. Because basically that's what we have being promulgated here is a new Cold War and a new dialectic, a new Hegelian dialectic, the framework of which has been laid through our imperialistic geostrategy.
As we draw up against the hour, and what I'll do is, if you don't mind, we'll give each other about a 4-minute break at the top of the hour.
Sure. And
then rejoin. But I want to throw this out to you because in the article that I forwarded to you, the individual who's dealing with the 9/11 symbology in films and TV also talked about. Oh, let me think. Jeez, I'm trying to figure out. I lost my train of thought. And I know it's got to do with 9/11, and I'm trying to nail it down. Can't do it. So we'll shift gears.
Sure.
Still dwelling around 9/11. Are you aware of the first mention of that date inside the United States by Daddy Bush?
No, I sure am not.
Well, this is why we're saying, what is going on really? There is a book out there, and in a previous show I cited it, I had it, I don't have it at my fingertips, and I cannot remember in total recall. But when Daddy Bush came over here, he referred to New World Order in a congressional gathering on 9/11, I believe it was 1990 or 1991.
Really?
Yeah, we're not going to split hairs. Chris Pinto also, in his first installment of the Megiddo series, cited a number of other politicians talking about New World Order on 9/11 and years gone by. So again, this is what I'm saying to you. I mean, I know where I was going with this. I got it. I'm back together again. This all joins in with what the writer had used from our radio show with Dr. Rebecca Carley, who had said, and I'm going to just summarize this. She said, in their sick Masonic minds, if they tell you they're going to do it to you before they do it, it's okay, like it's honorable to do such. And this is what I want to throw out to you as this hour ends. Do you see in your study and your awareness of spirituality and the fact that you understand that there's a satanic takeover coming, do you see where the Illuminati, or whatever you want to call it, is really preoccupied with numerology and loves this sort of thing?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, one need only look at Washington D.C. You have,
yes.
I mean, the whole area is replete with symbology, with numerology. I mean, you have the Pentagon. It has 5 sides. 5 is the number associated with Mars, the god of war. You have the Washington Monument, which is an obelisk, a fertility symbol, comes from the story of Osiris and Isis,
right,
which is an allegorical account of Nimrod and Semiramis. Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, and I think that also the reason that the elite, that numerology and symbology is so important to them is they're extremely superstitious bunch of people. And they believe that these numbers, that these symbols have occult significance, and will, imbue them somehow with power. And that's why it's important that they try to, draft some of their plans within the framework of these esoteric myths.
Well, in the occult, would you not agree that numerology is very strong? I mean, I would say that's one of the reasons, and this is another whole ball of wax about one of the why some Christian holidays were hijacked and placed very closely to Druidic dates.
Absolutely.
I mean, they we laugh about Christmas. I'm sorry, Philip, I don't know how you feel about it.
Oh, no, I agree with you entirely on that.
Holy mackerel.
Yeah, I mean, that's a real it's a real hot button. But I mean, historians have placed Jesus's birth, his incarnation, somewhere within July and August, and I mean, it just seems to be awfully coincidental, that we now celebrate it on a December 25th, on a date that so many other different religious events converge at and everything. Same with Easter. I mean, really, that word Easter doesn't really have anything to do with the resurrection of Jesus Christ. I mean, you have the Easter bunny seems harmless and innocuous enough, but really that's, again, a fertility symbol. So, I mean, absolutely.
Well, we always laughed about, all right, tell us what the connection is between rabbits and eggs. I don't get it.
Yeah, me neither. I mean, I guess it must be the Cadbury egg or something.
All right, before we go for our much heralded break, Philip, again, let me ask you this. I mean, with this book, an examination of epistemic autocracy from the 19th to the 21st century, that's the subtitle. The overarching title is The Ascendancy of the Scientific Dictatorship, which we'll pick up on in the second hour. Can anybody read that? I mean, you guys are brilliant. There's no two ways about it, you and your brother.
Oh,
but I mean, can people pick this up and say, okay, I identify with this, I understand it?
I certainly hope so. I mean, I know that the whole subtitle is quite a mouthful. If I could, I'll clarify that right now.
Sure.
When I refer to epistemic autocracy, epistemic relates to epistemology and is derived from the Greek word episteme, which means knowledge. So really what you have is an autocracy of knowledge, which also pertains to science. Science is derived from the original root scientia, which means knowledge. And so we have an autocratic control of science, of knowledge in society, which is redirected and used as a weapon against the masses. And that's why Huxley kind of characterizes it as a scientific dictatorship.
Yeah, and we're going to get into the scientific dictatorship, which just blew my mind when I saw you touch upon it, and I was so glad that you guys did. And
thank you.
Well, I've been looking for that for a long time, and I tell you what, I don't get gushing about anybody, and who cares if I gush about anyone, but
yeah, sure.
I have to say that, well, I tell you what, when I saw this, I said, okay, this hits on everything that Harry and I have been talking about for a number of years, and you guys seem to be able to distill it, and on the same hand, expand it to make it very understanding for people who want to get into this, to realize that really there's no such thing as coincidence when it comes to especially what happens in mass media and how it does manipulate us.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's kind of like what my broadcast criticism instructor Elliot Gaines said. And by the way, he's not a conspiracy theorist, and he certainly wouldn't agree with me in all my views. In fact, he's more of a left winger. But he basically put it succinctly. He's like, if you see it in a film or on a TV show, you can bet it was designed to be there.
Right.
There's nothing that a director doesn't place up there on the screen that isn't meant to be there.
All right, we're going to come back in the second hour and expand on that as well. Yeah, we're back at the grassy knoll. Bringing us back in was the Hermit of Mink Hollow, an area I used to frequent every so often. That would be called Woodstock, New York. With us for the first and for the second hour is Philip D. Collins, who's written a number of articles which are just absolutely fascinating. We'll talk more about where you can find them. He's also authored a book with his brother, who will be on the show as well, as we try to evolve this whole idea into a series, and we're going to do that. And the book is The Ascendancy of the Scientific Dictatorship, an examination of epistemic autocracy from the 19th to the 21st century. You know, when you guys get together, I'm guessing here, Phil, with the family, I wonder what kind of conversation you have around the dinner table.
It's kind of interesting, I'll tell you that.
Wow. You guys are no fun to play Scrabble with.
Oh, God. Yeah, the parties really, they're not all they're cracked up to be.
All right, now we'll get down to the nitty-gritty, and that is, I pose this question, and I like to open up the second hour, though we are some 13 minutes after that, with the question, which I would ask you to answer: is there any such thing as science fiction?
I would have to say that no. I mean, really, science fiction, really, and I think I pretty much encapsulate the way I view it in the title of one of my latest arguments. It's fiction as a precursor to fact. It's basically a lot of it is allegorized representations, versions of the elite's religious doctrine, of plans that they wish to see tangibly enacted. I mean, there are a few crucial exceptions. For instance, John Carpenter, who I think a lot of folks would consider a sci-fi director of sorts.
Right.
He, in films like They Live, he's actually done a great deal to shed light on the semiotic deceptions of the elite. But for the most part, writers like Aldous Huxley, H.G. Wells, especially Arthur C. Clarke, Gene Roddenberry, people like these have basically been instrumental in the promulgation of the elite's religious doctrine, and also comfortably acclimating the populace to accept the coming events that the elites have scheduled for us to experience.
So we could assume that some of these writers, to whom we ascribe such imaginative powers, actually were privy, probably, to what was going on in R&D in a number of areas of experimental testing.
Yes, absolutely. Well, you take, for instance, H.G. Wells and everything. First, H.G. Wells has been alleged to have been a Freemason. I believe he was referred to as Brother Wells in a American Freemasonic publication, although many Freemasons reject that notion that he is a Freemason. Whatever the case may be, we do know that he was a Fabian socialist, that he was a member of the Secretive Coefficients Club, and what have you. But in his book, The Shape of Things to Come, which not only is science fiction, but is really a polemic on behalf of a technocratic world government. It's really in favor of a ruling elite. Wells places the city of London as he basically depicts it as the entity that's responsible for tying together the world economic system. And we now know that the city of London is the international center of banking and culture. But bear in mind, this was back in 1933. Wells also predicted World War II beginning somewhere in 1940. A little bit off the mark, but not really, not
right.
bad at all.
Right.
And it takes place in Poland with basically a contrived grievance between Polish Jews and Nazis. He also really accurately depicts World War II as a extremely bloody period, and sets the date for ending the conflict in 1949. And again, not quite on, but not bad. I mean, that's only 4 years difference and everything. So what this suggests to me, and should suggest to the astute reader, is that Wells was privy to certain information, and was probably providing, his fuzzy and his fuzzy but somewhat best guess at what the elite had planned for years to come.
Well, he also was in a group that included Cecil Rhodes.
Absolutely.
And, his idea and the wills which he had were dedicated to what Lord Milner, and his kindergarten group enforced, and that is to advance the idea of an Anglo-American ruling class over the world.
Absolutely.
So when you see Wells carry on like this, I mean, he is definitely an exponent of this idea.
Absolutely. And if you want to really see a modern incarnation of a Wellesian concept, or, well, maybe not entirely a Wellesian concept, but certainly related to Wells, you need only look to the neoconservatives that are kind of in power right now in Washington. Throughout the shape of things to come, Wells constantly refers to technocracy and the technocratic movement. Well, the technocratic movement witnessed a rise during the 30s, and it was thanks in part to the support of the technocratic movement that FDR came to power, and with FDR came the just rampant growth of big government, the just prolific compartmentalization and bureaucratization of government, which the technocratic movement are just avid proponents of. And then, of course, you have under the FDR administration the affixing of the Great Seal to the dollar bill. So, I mean, basically, basically, the whole FDR New Deal period could be considered a technocratic episode in the history of the United States. It probably signaled America's transformation into a functional technocracy. But at any rate, if you read Technocracy and the Politics of Expertise, which is by an excellent author named Fisher, in it he refers to neoconservatism as a form of technocracy, and that it's conservative technocracy, but technocracy nonetheless. And so that's what we have in power now is a clique of technocrats.
Well, what I look at what's happening now, and I would assume that it's meant to be, as you and I understand.
Sure.
I mean, I don't care who. We're not Republican. We're not Democrat.
No.
We just know that whoever's in there has got to do what they have been dispatched to do.
Absolutely.
What I find interesting is, and I'll throw this out to you, and that is, on one hand, you have the neocons, which remind me of Trotskyite communists.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right. And then on the other side, you get the Democrats, which are also communists in the same sense, but they just do things more like gently.
Sure, sure. But well, it's interesting that you basically pose the neocons as analogous to Trotskyist Crystal, who's considered the godfather of neoconservatism.
That's Daddy Crystal, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
He basically confessed in his book, I think it's Neoconservatism, an autobiography of an idea, or I might be paraphrasing the title incorrectly, but he basically candidly, openly confessed to being a Trotskyite, and of his time with the young Trotskyist, he said he had not one regret and was just unrepentant. So, I mean, Trotskyist thinking is very much replete throughout neocon doctrine also, because you have the Trotskyist quasi-imperialist doctrine of spreading abroad and moving, expanding the borders of Marxism, to the other nations. And I think it's important that people catch on to that, because so far the left wing, while the left wing has done some pretty good jobs in exposing the neoconservatives. They have kind of hastily dubbed them anti-communist, pro-American elements, and that's completely and totally disproportionate with reality. I mean, you know, it doesn't take a genius to tell you that a lot of what they endorse is statism, which again, statism and some variant of Marxism,
right,
and everything. So, you know, I mean, again, there's nothing pro-American, nothing anti-communist about them.
Well, one of the things on the website I do this thing called book retorts. I'm playing around with the word book reports, and you know, I'm not trying to tell people what they should think. I'm just saying go check this out, and here's some tidbits.
Sure.
But one of the books that are up there is William Z. Foster's Toward Soviet America, written in 1932. That's a great date to remember because in it he talks about this is what's going to happen to the United States. And guess what? Through Frankie's reign, it happened.
Yeah.
You know, even the latest, I guess the last element that finally came to fruition was the creation in the late 70s of the United States Department of Education.
That's right.
But the thing is, when you read somebody who's writing this in 32, just before this all was to take place, you have to say to yourself, come on now, listen, there are conspiracies. Don't, you know, give me a break.
Yeah.
And this is where you see them. And what I have to laugh at is when I talk to people and we have discussions, I'm saying, okay, so you think we're free because every one of our agencies is entitled federal.
Yeah.
But when you look at Russia, you look at Soviet this and Soviet that or whatever it should be, and you're saying, oh, those poor people are in servitude. Hello? The thing is, federal and Soviet, it's all the same deal.
Yeah, it's the same. It's you know, different operating jargon for the same thing.
Right.
And it's interesting that you brought up science fiction earlier, and we're talking about FDR and how FDR's New Deal really facilitated America's metamorphosis into a functional technocracy. It's interesting because FDR loved the literature of Edward Bellamy, who was a member of the progressive movement. Yeah. And they were kind of, I guess you could call them precursors to the technocratic movement.
Okay.
But he loved, in particular, a book entitled Looking Backward, which was science fiction, or you know, science fiction in quotes.
Yep.
And in Looking Backward, Edward Bellamy presents a future society where you know, you have basically a monolithic governmental machination that basically coordinates and directs society and are ruled by experts, and all nation states have been amalgamated into a global superstate. And so then, when he was delineating his plan for economic recovery, nodding to Bellamy, FDR wrote "Looking Forward." So you see, you have Bellamy who writes "Looking Backwards" and everything, and "Looking Forward" was you know, the best way that he could give his literary nod to somebody who would you know, basically inspire him and inspire some of the policies of the New Deal.
Yeah, and not to cast aspersions against the Bellamy brothers, who are a Florida rock and roll group who had a couple of hits. And the Bellamys I'm thinking about with Francis and Edward, they were not brothers. Was it a cousin situation? You know?
I'm not quite sure.
But I mean, the whole Pledge of Allegiance was created by one of the Bellamys.
Yeah. And
it's all about, pledge your butt to the state. It's
like,
no, that is not what the Constitutional Republic of the United States was about.
No. Well, in the original, I guess, saluting posture that the person who recites the Pledge of Allegiance was supposed to assume was, instead of right hand over heart, right hand extended. In much in the same fashion that the Nazis extended their hand in the proverbial Sieg Heil salute.
Right, which was absolutely disappeared after World War II.
Yes, absolutely.
I don't know if you're familiar with this gentleman, but he's been on the show. He's done a great work, Rex Curry.
No, I sure am not.
Well, I'll send you that email because he has chronicled through many, many letters and documents and photos how this whole pledge was basically Romanist in its origins with the hand extended and continued on. And so, I want to believe that the Pledge of Allegiance is patriotic, but really the guy who wrote it did not have in mind individual freedom, but, sacrifice to the state.
Absolutely. Well, and again, it's the question of connotative meaning versus denotative meaning.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you look at the wording, and it seems, innocuous enough and everything, because, of course, I would more than pledge my support to a constitutional republic and everything, but I'm not about to pledge myself to any state, pledge myself, mind, body, and soul to
mm-hmm.
it, and everything. Which I mean, if you look at the progressive movement of Edward Bellamy and everything, which again was a precursor to the technocratic movement, the idea is always inherently collectivist, the subordination of the individual
mm-hmm.
to the collective, and the many always to I guess quote Roddenberry, the needs of the many always outweighed the needs of the few,
right,
and everything. So I mean that's the underlying rationale and the underlying paradigm that seems to underpin some of the elements of the Pledge of Allegiance.
We were with Philip Collins, who's the author of a book with a really long title. I'm not going to go into this, but I tell you what, we have two of his articles up on Visigoth.com, one of which was co-authored with his brother Paul, who has also has done an amazing work and will be with us, we really hope, for an installment of the series, which would be entitled The Magicians of Mutability. But I got to tell you, one of the shows we did a while back, Philip, was called American Union 2005,
mm-hmm.
and it was based on the good work that Galen Ross had done. Are you familiar with Galen at all?
Vaguely. He wrote didn't he write Elite Bloodlines or Room?
Yes, you got it right.
Yeah.
Right. And his website, that phone's not for me, just ignore it. Yes, his website is, I believe, 4 RIE.com. Go check that out. But anyway, he was good enough. Anyway, we got a video from him about American Union 2005 and how all the powers that be in the United States, to include Madeleine Albright and Rockefeller, of course, wanted to see an integration economically of all 34 nations in the Western Hemisphere. Okay?
Certainly.
So what happened was, in one of these clips from C-SPAN, and that's where I believe Galen got that from, they're doing this lovey-lovey piece on the UN. And I got to tell you, with Roddenberry in mind, I taped this, I ripped the audio, and we did it in the show, and we played it 2 or 3 times back, and I'm saying, holy mackerel, if you can envision, Philip, the original Star Trek soundtrack, I mean, the music with the horns and stuff, it is in that film clip from 1949.
That's amazing.
And I mean, I challenge anybody to go look at that show, American Union 2005, and listen to that 6-minute beauty piece that they showed on the UN. And I mean, I looked at Harry, and Harry, is always one to hit me over the head and saying, "You're crazy, it's coincidence." And he looked at me and he went, "Whoa."
Yeah.
So anyway, but here again, you talk about semiotics. Roddenberry was a one-world dude.
Yeah.
The Federation.
Well, absolutely, and also to reiterate on the semiotic angle. Okay, in semiotics, there's 3 kinds of signs. One of which being icons. Icons are basically signs that resemble something else. Okay.
Give us an example, please.
I'm sorry.
Can you give us an example?
Sure.
A hardcore?
Okay, an icon is a good example of an icon is a statue. It resembles something that the statue was sculptured after, or a portrait. A portrait, say a portrait of George Washington, is the painter's approximation of George Washington's features. It may be very, very much, look very, very much like George Washington, but we know it isn't George Washington. It's an approximation, and it has iconic value. But at any rate, to give even a better example, the hand gesture that a lot of sex, drug, rock and roll musicians use,
the horns?
Where they hold the two horns aloft,
right.
Has iconic similarity to the goat of Mendes.
Right.
Likewise, if you look at the symbol for the Federation, iconically, it is very, very similar to the symbol for the United Nations. And most of Gene Roddenberry's ideas, he even says that he got a great deal of them from elitist think tanks like the Rand Corporation. But one of the most damning bits of evidence that Gene Roddenberry, has been responsible in promulgating elite thought was what he said in a book. I think it was called Star Trek Creator or something. It was written by a humanist by the name of Alexander. But in it, and I'll quote him now, he said the following: "As nearly as I can concentrate on the question today, I believe I am God. Certainly you are. I think we intelligent beings on this planet are all a piece of God, are becoming God," unquote. And that is the core of the elite's Luciferian religion, the core of the elite's Luciferian doctrine. And it's just pervasive throughout science fiction literature. It's pervasive throughout Star Trek, pervasive throughout Star Wars. In Star Wars, you have, for instance, in the Phantom Menace, the character, the central character, Anakin Skywalker, is birthed via virgin birth. In it, they talk about this element called the metachlorines, which bind all life together, and they say that in the instance of Anakin, the metachlorines birthed themselves. Well, that's kind of like that's very Darwinian, because that's abiotic or abiogenesis and everything, and that again returns to an older occult concept, which was central to the Kabbalism, and that occult concept is that of the golem. The golem being an artificial man, a living being spawned from non-living material.
Right.
And the idea is that there is no separation between the living and the dead. There is no separation between non-living matter and living matter. And you see this type of thinking also evident in the Gaia hypothesis, which was presented by Lovelock. Essentially, Gaia, the Earth goddess worshipped by a great many of the radical environmentalists, is a Kabbalistic golem and everything. But it's also evident in, again, the sci-fi themes of virtual reality, cyber survival. It's evident in those where you have, for instance, Terminator or Terminator 2. The machine develops sentience. All of a sudden, this non-living being, because it's a machine, develops sentience, becomes self-aware, self-conscious. It's basically a golem, and I believe even an old a Kabbalistic priest of some sort. I'm trying to remember his name, but I can't remember his name. But he referred to computers as the modern day golems and everything. And this sort of thinking is just pervasive throughout science fiction literature, and is the thought that we're being inculcated into to accept.
All right, now let us get into about the scientific dictatorship.
Sure.
And I think it's so key, and this is the one thing that when I saw it, I just like absolutely scrapped around the internet to try to find where I could get in touch with you. Because Harry and I, with this show, and what we're doing is not, innovative. I mean, we just see what we see as well, and we resonate it. But I mean, we're saying to people, hello, folks. Guess what? Aldous Huxley was not kidding around when he wrote Brave New World or Brave New World Revisited.
Yeah,
and people should read those two books along with Orwell's, I think, Orwell's 1984, to find out exactly where we're going. And the scientific dictatorship was a term that he did use, I believe, in Brave New World Revisited.
Yes,
and
correct.
I heard it also on that speech he gave at Berkeley, which is up on the net and for people to hear, called The Ultimate Revolution. Did you listen to that at all?
Yes, I sure did. Yeah, he referred to I believe he referred to Nazi Germany and communist Russia as scientific dictatorships during the course of that lecture.
Yeah, soon to come to a neighborhood near you. And I mean, are we not seeing this? I mean, now, give me your take on Brave New World, and we'll take it from there. Go ahead.
Sure. Brave New World is basically a thinly veiled roman en clef. Roman en clef is basically a literary genre that has veiled truth to it and everything. But it would appear that the idea of a scientific dictatorship certainly didn't originate with Huxley. Aldous Huxley is yet another person who has been alleged to have been a Freemason. He's also was a member of a secret society known as the Children of the Sun, which was occupied by the children of Round Table members and everything. But and he was also mentored by H.G. Wells, and H.G. Wells's concepts of a technocracy, no doubt, probably rubbed off on Huxley and everything. But basically, the concept is that science is used as an instrument for the sculpting of human civilization.
Right.
And again, returning to the original root of scientia, for science, meaning knowledge, you could pretty much characterize this elite as an epistemological cartel and everything, being that they've cartelized knowledge and everything. And of course, President Eisenhower, in his very, very famous farewell address,
right.
everybody always listens to the segment of that where he refers to the military-industrial complex. But the one quote that they miss out on is where Eisenhower says the following. He says, quote, "Yet in holding scientific research and discovery in respect as we should, we must also be alert to the equal and opposite danger that public policy could itself become the captive of a scientific technological elite," unquote. And so the idea is a society managed by a technological scientific elite, and also wielding science as the proverbial magic wand over mankind. I mean, again, we normally take what scientists tell us as gospel, and like the shaman of a tribe, the shaman, tell the tribe, well, the gods did this, the gods do that, and the gods tell you to, pay homage to me, this, that. Who knows why? I do, because I'm the shaman. And it's interesting because in an issue of Scientific America, Michael Shermer wrote an article titled "The Shamans of Scientism," or the shaman of scientism and everything. And in it, he basically said that the scientists were to act as the new myth makers for a brand new age.
I don't know who I sent this to, and as I talk this out, perhaps I'll remember. It was a female. And I was saying about Huxley wasn't kidding, and that what we see now with genetic, modification and in vitro creation of life, that really what they can do is create a grunt population, if you will, to commit, or execute all the laborious functions they wish, while they themselves can ensure genetic purity.
That's right.
Is that what you're seeing also?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, that's especially evident in the eugenics movement. The eugenics movement, basically, eugenics is derived from the Greek word for well-born, but it was a term coined by Sir Francis Galton, who, surprise, surprise, was Charles Darwin's cousin, and also received the official sanction of Charles Darwin. Before a lot of evolutionists like to play off eugenics as this ugly little aberration that attached itself to evolutionary theory, but that's not so. At any rate, the eugenics movement was largely responsible for the emergence of the organization that we now call Planned Parenthood. And now today, we, of course, how many babies have been aborted and everything, but not many people are aware of the fact that Margaret Sanger was a proponent of eugenics, proponent of the Nazi eugenics projects. One of the people who wrote for her publication, the what was it called, the Birth Control Review, was none other than Ernest Rudin, who was instrumental in the assembly of Adolf Hitler's racial hygiene programs. And when Aldous Huxley presents this breed of genetically the genetic overclass, he's not. This isn't by any means a fictional concept, and he isn't by any means innovating. This isn't a concept that originated with him. He was in and amongst people, with elitist thought, who believed in the existence of a superior stock. His own brother, Julian Huxley, also was, who was pretty much the mastermind behind UNESCO.
That's right.
Endorsed the use of eugenics and basically said, well, hopefully in the future. Now I'm paraphrasing him loosely, but in the future, hopefully that which man considered unthinkable will at least become thinkable.
What we've lost sight of, obviously, because our generation, born post-World War II, for the most part, had no relationship to as far as being alive and remembering these things, and of course it's been sanitized from our history books and otherwise. There was a mounting desire for eugenics and euthanasia prior to World War II, where they would take a look and say, well, look, your family are just hereditary criminals. So we're gonna make sure that you don't have any seed. So they would sterilize you. Yeah. And then,
I'm sorry.
No. I mean, you were on board with that, right?
I absolutely. I mean, you look at all the segments of the population that Margaret Sanger, termed morons, genetically inferior. I mean, good grief! It was like it was the African Americans. It was the Native Americans. It was the Jews. Sir Francis Galton himself, who basically developed eugenics. He said that the Jews were a major problem that had to be basically wiped out and everything, and only through selective breeding and the banning of procreation within certain segments of the population, we were going to be able to overcome this genetic threat that they feared. But that's basically the preoccupation. One of the major preoccupations within the elite is a preoccupation with a superior stock of man and a superior stock of blood.
For our listeners and for my own edification, I will admit, the way I figure it, and tell me, what you think, I've traced through a number of books that it seems that, I don't know. I mean, Galton was related to Darwin, was he not?
Who?
Galton and Darwin were what?
Absolutely, yeah. They were cousins.
All right. Darwin preceded Galton, is that true?
Yes.
All right, so Galton comes up with this, but actually, what Galton forwarded was actually from Darwin's grandfather, wasn't it, Erasmus?
Yes. And Erasmus Darwin was, in fact, a Freemason. And, I mean, there's a great deal to suggest that evolutionary theory itself and everything is really just derivative of the old doctrine of transformism that originated 6,000 years ago in Mesopotamia, in Babylon, in Egypt. And really what these men were doing were acting as transmission belts for the older ideas of antiquity.
Right.
And basically placing them in a contemporary context, in a more scientific context. I mean, the ideas, they're no longer overtly mystical. They are mystical in character, but they're no longer overtly mystical. They are instead sort of materialistic, but nonetheless occult. And they acted as basically the conduits for that strain of thought into the 20th century. And as we're entering the 21st century, we see that ideational continuum, that continuity of thought, is again undergoing a change with transhumanism, the idea in this post-human condition that man will become machine and everything, and again, which was semiotically gesticulated towards by several works of science fiction. So, yeah, absolutely.
Well, I can't remember who the sister was that said, listen, they're serious, and they're going to breed a type of worker who doesn't need a lot of food and such. And I was like, I never thought of that. I mean, that they could really bring it down so explicitly to what Huxley had envisioned. But let me run through this real quickly because it leads to another thing that's happening today with this depopulation effort. So we have Erasmus, who comes up with these ideas. Francis Galton kind of runs with him. Charles Darwin picks him up, and then it goes to T.H. Huxley. Is that correct?
Kind of, sort of. T.H. Huxley acted as Darwin's bulldog. I kind of get the idea, though, that some form of transformist doctrine was already circulating within Huxley's crowd, prior to his picking up the torch for Darwin and everything. But he certainly did run with the torch after Darwin, presented Origin on the Species.
Well, what's missing in this continuum is the father of Aldous and Julian, but it seems that the breach was filled by H.G. Wells.
Absolutely.
Right, and then the Huxleys continue it, and here we are today, right?
That's right, absolutely. In fact, you mapped it out very, very beautifully. And if I also may point out, T.H. Huxley was also a Freemason, and for no real good reason, he was made a fellow of the British Royal Society.
That's so perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the British Royal Society kind of acted like as the headquarters for quite some time of the scientific technological elite. They acted as as basically, I guess you could consider them something of the antenna for the transmission of elite thought under the guise of science.
When I try to tell people, and now I'm going to bring it to the present day, and that is, and we've talked about this, and you need not commit yourself to what I'm going to say, but we did discuss the fact that, peak oil I wouldn't have a problem with if it wasn't so inextricably connected to depopulation. It's like, okay, the deal's done, forget about it, this is the way it's got to be. And I don't believe, Yahweh would have put us on this planet to all of a sudden turn around and say, okay, I'm pulling the blanket out from under you. And it's not necessarily the Lord that's doing this, but obviously, technocrats.
Yeah.
But,
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Oh, no. So all I mean is that when I hear peak oil, which I don't really believe to be gospel, excuse me,
Sure.
tied into population reduction, and this goes into the second paper that we have up on our site. It's like, oh, come on, folks. I mean, there's something beneath all this, and this is just not, this is banging a little bit weird on my ears.
Yeah, and a good. I mean, first off, it proves to be just a little bit too convenient for the population control crowd.
Boy.
And secondly, much of the peak oil crowd continues to parrot the same eugenics crowd. They've quote Darwin's extensively, and the rationale that seems to be underpinning their beliefs is that the Creator, that Jehovah, is looking down upon us and now demanding that we evolve or die, and basically that was also the basic way of thinking of one of the spiritual gurus of Cecil Rhodes, a guy by the name of Winwood Reade. He was a theistic evolutionist. He believed in God, although he certainly didn't believe in an anthropomorphic God and everything, that a God that took part in the affairs of man, who was refining man through evolution and through the processes of nature. And he himself said, and this was his own mantra, his own little dictum, he said, "The law of nature is the law of death." And I mean, that preoccupation with death seems to be amongst many of these people that they want to discuss, reduction of the population, carrying capacity, and then invariably we get to topics such as euthanasia, abortion, and everything. Again, it seems to be a preoccupation with death, and which is just absolutely morbid, sickening, and from my own personal standpoint is overtly satanic.
Well, being a human being and realize that they're drawing down on humans, that might strike you that way.
Yeah.
And I agree. I mean, and I see Peter Singer now with all the books that are out there now about bioethics.
Yeah,
are carrying that strain from Sanger.
That man, and I mean, he. You want to talk about a worm? He refers to, he refers to babies as neonates. That they're nothing but mackerels, and that now. Of course, now that they're outside of the womb, now we shouldn't find any problem with terminating their life, before a specific age. And again, this goes right back to the theme of man becoming God. Man, in his ascent to apotheosis, at the pinnacle of deification, will no longer be man. He will no longer be human, and thus to dehumanize certain segments of the population in the pursuit of this ultimate goal is not unthinkable to them. It is in fact just a given. It is in fact just one more necessary necessary evil in our evolutionary ascent. And once we enter this post-human era, once we cease to be humanity altogether, in the words of Nietzsche, once we overcome our humanity and everything, it will have no longer mattered. Right. The segments of the population that we've exterminated, that we've sterilized, that we have basically worked into their graves, will have been spit in the bucket.
We are with Philip Collins, who along with his brother Paul have written a number of books and articles about the scientific dictatorship and what we're facing. And really, we would like you to go to, if you can, for instance, the website biped.info, Conspiracy Archive, is that right?
Yeah, conspiracyarchive.com.
We have two up on Visigoth.com, and the book they've written the ascendancy of the scientific dictatorship and examination of epistemic autocracy from the 19th to the 21st century. Sounds confusing, sounds convoluted, sounds high-blown, but I tell you what, it really does relate to every single one of us, and it's extremely germane to the shows that Harry and I have done, warning people that we have a class of people out there who have no compunction whatsoever about eliminating the useless feeders. Am I right on that, or what, Phil?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Basically, if you really want to, get to the core of it and everything, it's basically, and this shouldn't come as a surprise with the popularization of films such as The Matrix and other science fiction films like that. This is like the new Gnostic era, because the idea is that man is basically a creature that's fettered by the demonic agents of time and space, and the only way to overcome these demonic agents is to overcome his own humanity, alter humanity sensate through now today through technology, through science and everything, and eventually become that which he was not to begin with, and that was God.
And we've seen this laid in literature for a century.
Absolutely.
We've pointed out quite often to the Wells books and such, and but it's here today, and it's with us right now.
Absolutely.
And I mean, as much as we all love environmentalism, we don't want to pollute stuff. We have to watch out, as John Coleman warned, and as you wrote to me very astutely, that John had his niche out there, and he was correct. And in this case, I believe he's right, and that is watch out, because radical environmentalism wants to make sure you're not sustainable, so you can be basically returned to a certain kind of new feudalism.
Absolutely. Well, if you look at one of the terms that I've heard circulated amongst radical environmentalists, really has very little to do with the maintenance of the environment,
right,
and everything, and that is the word reprimatization. Where we have to reprimatize the land. Well, I mean, now of course this is me drawing from my own scriptural background as a Christian, but one of the mandates that the Lord set down for mankind was to take that which was primitive and take that which is barren and build upon it and expand on it. Now, I'm not talking urban sprawl. I'm not talking out of control techno industry and anything, but I am talking about shaping out of the wild some civilization. And that seems to be ultimately what they oppose, is civilization itself and everything. I believe that one of the bumper stickers that they sport is it goes something like, "Do the earth a favor," or "Save Earth, kill yourself."
I know. Oh, that's it. Beautiful.
So, I mean, this is just irrationality to the 10th power.
That's right. It's cute.
Yeah.
Philip D. Collins has been with us. Please visit my website. Also, we've mentioned a number of times where you can read his articles. Philip, are you still on board with doing a series with us?
I sure am. Absolutely.
You have to, because I'll get mad otherwise,
Yeah.
Right. And Paul will join us also.
Certainly.
This is absolutely seminal. Thank you for doing your hour and even more.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been an honor.
All right, and we'll do this again. And thank you for visiting the Grassy Knoll, and we'll be in touch.